Great. Well, I'm going to get rolling. Again, this is the solar information session. My name is Hannah Mitchell. I'm the program director with Solar United Neighbors of Texas. And I would just want to give a thank you to our community partners for the Plano Solar Co-op. And our community partners are Habitat for Humanity of Collin County, Plano Solar Advocates, and we're also thrilled to be working with Rocky Mountain Institute and World Resources Institute on their solar accelerator. I also want to make a note that we do have an open co-op for Dallas and DeSoto. So if you are south of Plano, I know there are a couple of folks who had expressed interest in joining. If you're south of Plano, the content is virtually the same for both of the co-ops, and I will make a note of where the differences are. We have two open co-ops, one for Plano, one for Dallas DeSoto. And again, if you live north of Plano, if you're in the Frisco, Allen, McKinney area and are interested in going solar, please do join the Plano co-op. Great. So just a little bit of housekeeping. As I mentioned, you can drop questions into the chat. I'll leave some time at the end, and you can raise your hand and I'll allow folks to unmute. We have a pretty full call, but do want to give people a chance to speak if they have something that they would like to clarify. Otherwise, please put it in the chat. And if you have trouble with the audio, you can join both by phone and by computer. I am recording this, so I'll send out a recording to folks who are not able to join. So just a little bit of information about Solar United Neighbors. We are a nonprofit, and we're not affiliated with any particular installer or product. So our mission is just to make it as easy as possible for people to go solar and improve solar access for everyone. A little bit of information about how we got started. So back in 2007, our now executive director, Anya Schoolman, fielded a request from her son and his best friend who were in middle school at the time, and they'd just seen a documentary and were jazzed up about doing something to make a difference in their community. And so they came home from school and they were like, Mom, we have to install solar panels. And so she started looking into it, and there wasn't a ton of consumer-facing information available at the time. And so she said, you know, if we're gonna figure this out and, you know, file for a tax credit and choose an installer, we might as well take the whole neighborhood with us and see if we can learn together throughout the process and maybe get a better deal on the cost of the panels and the installation. And so they formed the Mount Pleasant Solar Cooperative in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Washington, D.C. in 2007. And since then, we've become a national nonprofit running hundreds of solar co-ops and helping thousands of people go solar. And we have state-based programs in about a dozen states, but have a fully national operation. We help people join together, go solar, and fight for their energy rights. So improving solar access and solar policy is one of our primary focus areas. We don't just help people go solar through our co-ops and through our help desk, but we're also actively working to improve the conditions for solar in our state-based programs and beyond and nationally. So a little bit about our solar co-ops, and we're going to take a deep dive in this in just a little bit, but it's a group buy model. So the idea is that you get a group of people together that are in a relatively similar geographic area who are all interested in going solar around the same time. And we generally shoot for about 50 to 100 people. They don't all have to be in the same neighborhood, but 50 to 100 people or more who are all interested in going solar, but there's no cost or commitment associated with joining a solar co-op. and it's about a 6 to 8 month process from the point at which we announce the launch through all of the information sessions, the installer selection, and the installations. And while it is a group process, it's up to each individual member, if they so choose, to sign an individual contract with the installer. So I'll get more into that later on, but just so you have a sense of how the co-op model works from the get-go, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to be diving into solar technology, and then do a deeper dive into our solar co-ops now that you have a flavor for what that looks like, and then wrap it up with solar economics. All right, and if there are any solar installers on the call, we do have a portal that is just for installers, and Dory will drop that into the chat at some point over the course of this presentation. Are there any questions I should pause for here, Dory, or should I keep rolling?
There are no questions. You may keep rolling.
Great. All right, so solar technology. So when we're talking about solar technology for the purpose of our co-ops and our conversation this evening, we are talking about solar photovoltaics, or solar PV. And that is the technology that converts the energy from the sun into usable electricity in your home. So you might have heard of solar thermal for hot water. Our co-ops are exclusively focused on solar PV. And this here is a simplified diagram of a grid-tied solar system. So I'll be stepping into each of the different components over the next couple of slides, but just so you have a picture in your mind from the get-go, the first thing we're talking about are the individual solar modules that are wired together, usually on a roof, but can be ground mounted, to form a solar array. And they take the energy from the sun and generate an electrical current. And the electrical current flows off of the panels in the form of DC energy, direct current energy, and is going to go through an inverter. And that inverter is going to transform the electricity from DC to AC, or alternating current electricity, which is what is used in your home. It's then going to go through your electrical panel and will be used by whatever load or energy demand your home has at the time, before flowing out through your utility meter and onto the grid to be used by your neighbors, any excess. And so thinking a little bit more about those individual solar modules, some important terminology to keep in mind are kilowatts, written as lowercase k, uppercase W, and kilowatt hours, kWh. So a kilowatt is a unit of power. It's 1,000 watts, and this is what a solar system size is measured in. So just like when you're shopping for light bulbs, you're going to look for 60-watt bulbs or 100-watt bulbs. Solar systems are sized not in individual panels, not in the individual modules, but in the kilowatts. So that's how a system is measured. And that's also generally how you compare solar prices, is dollars per kilowatt. And then on the other hand, kilowatt hours are a unit of energy. And I'm sure everyone sees this on your light bill when you're paying your utility. And it's used to describe the amount of electricity that the system produces. And this is a diagram of a solar array, roughly to size. And most homeowners are going to install anywhere from 5 to 12 kilowatts. That's not to say we don't see systems that are smaller or bigger. I think the true average for our Texas co-ops is about 7 kilowatts. And then looking even deeper, zooming in even more on the solar modules. The magic that happens there is in the solar cells that are made of silicon. And again, when they are wired together and on a roof, they make a solar array. Just want to spend a little bit of time on, if we're thinking back to that original diagram of the house, on the inverters. So once the electricity is generated by your panels, it is going to go through an inverter. And so there's a couple of different options for inverters. You don't have to know off the top of your head, oh, I definitely want a micro-inverter, or a string inverter is what I need for my house. But just so you know, when and if you're looking at a proposal from an installer, what these different pieces of technology do. So the string inverter is going to invert the electricity for the panels overall. So if you have an uncomplicated design and you have minimal shading, a string inverter might be a good option for you. And so that's just going to invert the electricity at a system-wide level. If you have a micro inverter, it pops onto the back of the panel, onto the back of the individual modules, and it will it's a great option if you have partial shading over the course of the day that might block out a couple of your modules. The microinverter is a good option to adapt to shading concerns. And then something that we'll see pretty frequently is a string inverter combined with an optimizer, which sort of takes advantage of the best of both worlds of the string inverter and the microinverter. Dory, any questions that I should pause for in the chat, or I see them popping off, but I'm sure you got them.
Yeah, we got them covered. Keep on going.
Great. So once the electricity has been inverted through your inverters, it's going through your electrical panel. And most homes' electrical panels can handle the installation of a solar system. Some older homes with a smaller electrical service might need an upgrade or a sub panel or a full replacement. So a full replacement is rare, but the typical costs we see for an electrical panel full service replacement is in the $1,000 to $2,000 range. And again, it's not super common, but if your home is older, then that might be something that would be necessary in order to accommodate the integration of the solar. So to go through how your system is going to attach to your home, many people opt for a roof-mounted system. It doesn't take up any space. And the main thing to keep in mind here is that regardless of what type of roof you have, there is likely an attachment system that will work for your roof. And so the solar panels are going to attach through a racking system, and they're going to be flashed to shed water at connection points, and it's the roof to rafter connection is where the flashing occurs. And as I mentioned, so lots of different attachment scenarios. So if you have a standing seam metal roof, the rails are going to attach to the standing seams, and they'll be attached by C-clips. And if you have a flat roof, they're going to go on the load-bearing parapet walls. And if for some reason you don't want solar on your roof and you have available yard space, or you live in a more rural area, a ground-mounted system is also an option. It usually comes at a bit of an adder or like an upcharge. Not always, but generally the ground-mounted systems generally are a little bit slightly more costly. All right, so at this point you might be thinking, okay, so If solar panels can go on my roof, and it seems like they can, what would make a site good for solar? And there are three things to keep in mind. One is available space. So you need about 200 contiguous square feet of space on your roof that has minimal shading. So some shading is okay, but the more shading you have, then the more that will impede the solar production and less cost effective the system is. And then the last thing to keep in mind is orientation. So anything from due east to due west is suitable for solar. The only orientation you want to avoid is a due north facing roof. And if you are interested in signing up for an open co-op, the first thing that happens is that Vincent, who is our Go Solar program specialist and co-op support person, will do a quick roof review, and he'll look at Google Earth and do a quick assessment to make sure that you don't have undue shading and you have a roof that's, you have some roof space that is anywhere from due east to due west facing. So that's a quick check that we will do. All right, so just to recap what we have talked about, we have the individual solar modules sited on a roof. Again, they take the energy from the sun and convert it into direct current electricity that the solar inverter then inverts into alternating current electricity, flows through your electrical panel, is used by anything in your home that's demanding electricity, and any excess will then flow out through your utility meter and onto the grid. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, so if I have extra energy and it's going out onto the grid, how does that interact with my utility bill, and how do I get credit for that excess energy that's going out onto the grid? And this is where the concept of solar net metering comes into play. I do want to introduce this as a policy concept. So solar net metering is a situation in which you get credited for excess generation that is sent out through your utility meter onto the grid at the same rate at which you are buying electricity from the grid. And so while utilities must by law allow for the bidirectional flow of electricity, the rate at which you are credited is set by state laws. And so Texas does not have a statewide net metering law, so there's not one set rate at which your excess generation is credited. However, in the absence of a statewide net metering law, there are retail electricity providers that offer solar buyback plans. And this is particularly relevant for anyone who is in Encore territory or Centerpoint territory. If you are in the municipal co-op, if you're in CoServe territory, they set their own rate, and I'm happy to provide a little bit more information about what that looks like. But if you choose your retail electricity provider in Encore territory, you have a bunch of different options, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all option that's best for all solar owners. It does depend on your individual energy consumption patterns and your electricity needs, and we have a full, we have a page on our website dedicated to what buyback plans are. And we also are offering a free service where if you are considering a solar proposal, you can fill out a little form, and we'll provide you with a personalized analysis looking at available retail electricity plans to tell you, okay, this is the plan that could offer you the most savings. And I will also be sending out a recording to our webinar on buyback plans where we take a deep dive into that topic. But just to give you a little bit of a snapshot, so this is actually, Dory kindly provided us with her utility bill for the month of June to July. And Dory lives in Houston, so she's in Center Point territory, but all of the retail electricity providers that offer solar buyback plans, and really all of the retail electricity providers that operate in Center Point also operate in Encore service territory. So she, for her particular situation, she is on Green Mountain Energy's Renewable Rewards program. It's at a it's a pretty hot time in the summer, and it shows she was charged for 745 kilowatt hours, and she earned a credit of 686 kilowatt hours. So she has her sort of the energy that she bought and the energy that she's credited for, and so her net bill is $7.86. I know a really hot topic, especially right now, is power outages. So unfortunately, if you have solar, and you do not have battery backup, if the grid goes down, your solar system is also going to go out. And that is really just a safety precaution for any line workers that are repairing the grid, so that your system doesn't backfeed and harm them. If you do want backup during an outage, you might want to consider storage. I've also had questions about generators, which will interface with solar, but you might want storage if you're experiencing frequent outages and you want to be prepared in the case of an emergency. A note on storage. So this is, you are going to, generally speaking, you're going to have to pick and choose what you decide to power with a battery bank. There's no limit to the amount of batteries that, that you can purchase and have at your home, but they do, of course, come at a cost. So this is a fictional family, the Johnsons. They have a 6 kilowatt hour battery bank, and when the power goes out and it's fully charged, they choose to run a refrigerator, a small microwave, some lights, but they're not running the things in their home that suck up a ton of electricity, like the central AC, the stove, and the dryer. So those are the things that they decide to, they choose to power with their battery bank. We do have a full storage guide and some considerations for homeowners that want battery backup. To give you an example of costs, so the cost of batteries has not declined nearly as quickly as the cost of solar. So you are looking at, at least a third, maybe more, adding at least a third of the cost of your solar system onto that total cost. All right. And Dory, there's a link to the storage guide, and Dory will also drop that in the chat. I'm going to pause. I'm going to go on to the frequently asked questions slide, but Dory, is there anything I should address verbally?
I think we're catching them as they come.
Great.
So I did put that battery guide in the chat.
Perfect. All right. So, answers to some frequently asked questions. Warranties. There are 3 different warranties that are going to come with your solar system. The first is a power production warranty, and that's going to come from the manufacturer. And what we standardly see is an 80% power production guarantee. So that usually means that, at year 25, your solar system is guaranteed to be producing 80% of its nameplate value. So they do degrade a little bit over time, but that warranty is basically to make sure that your power production doesn't degrade very severely. The next warranty is the product warranty. So that's going to be for any physical defects, and there's product warranties for both the inverters and the panels. And again, that comes from the manufacturer. And then the third warranty to look out for is the labor guarantee, and that's issued through the installer. The length on that warranty really depends on the installer. What we see most commonly is like the 2 to 10 year range for a labor guarantee. Let's see. So next question, will it increase my homeowner's insurance? So it should not increase your homeowner's insurance. You will want to let your homeowner's insurance know that you have installed solar so that it's covered, and it may go up a bit. If it goes up a lot, we encourage folks to shop around for a different policy. In some very rare instances, we've heard people say that their homeowner's insurance actually goes down if that insurance company has any sort of sustainability commitments that they want to reward people for. All right, does a solar array have any maintenance? So it is not 100% maintenance free, but it is very low maintenance. So again, there's no moving parts because it's not like a combustion engine, so there's very little wear and tear on the system. What you do want to look out for, just visually, or if you notice that you have pollen or dust accumulating on, say, your cars or windows, that's something that could impede the production of your system. And some people will just take a garden hose and spray them down, or use a pool brush. And of course, there are solar companies that specialize in cleaning and tune-ups if that's something that you would like to have done. So I think we used to say they're maintenance free, not 100% maintenance free, but very, very low maintenance. Does my roof need to be new? So your roof does not need to be new, but if you're installing something that could last up to over 25 years, you want to think about the longevity of your roof, and if you're going to need to get your roof replaced sometime in the next few years. So we generally say, you don't want to install solar on a roof that is more than halfway through its lifespan. If you do need to have roof work done, if you need to have your roof replaced for whatever reason and you have solar on it already, many companies will uninstall the system and then reinstall it at a cost per kilowatt. How long do systems last? So thinking back to that power production guarantee and the other product warranties, you're generally looking at a system that under warranty will last about 25 years. That's not to say that it's going to die at year 25. We hear about plenty of systems that have been around since the 80s, the 90s. They're still producing electricity, but as a rule of thumb, about 25 years. All right, will my HOA allow solar on my home? And under Texas law, so there's a property code, and then there was a bill that was passed to clarify that property code. HOAs cannot tell you outright that you can't install solar. They also can't dictate the placement of your solar system if it reduces the production of that system by more than 10%. So many HOAs are not aware that this property code exists, which is why we have an explainer on our website. And if you do anticipate having issues with your HOA, we also have a full HOA action guide to sort of prep you for letting your HOA know that you're installing solar. All right, and finally, what about hail and other things falling on them? So most solar panels are tested through the manufacturer to withstand an inch of hail falling at 55 miles per hour. There's no, that's not to say that they're 100% shatterproof, breakproof, but there are many, many systems that are installed all throughout hurricane corridors that hold up really well. If your whole roof comes off, it's likely that your solar system is also going to come off. However, they're also wind tested to withstand 144 mile per hour winds. So functioning well throughout extreme weather scenarios, but not 100% break proof. All right, Dory, were there any questions that I should address outside of those?
I don't think I've answered some of them a little bit briefly, but I knew that you're coming to you're coming to some more detail about the ITC, et cetera. So
Okay,
I think we've got them.
sweet. All right. So how do our solar co-ops work? So our solar co-ops, as I mentioned, it's a group of people who want to go solar around the same time and take advantage of bulk purchasing and learning from one another, and through Solar United Neighbors to have a good installation and learning process. So this right here is a very rough timeline of how our co-ops work. So the first step is to learn about the solar co-op, which everyone is doing right now. And then if you are interested in signing up and becoming a member of a solar co-op, it's always cost and commitment free to join. It's just an indication that you're seriously considering installing solar for your home or your small business. And then we ask that everyone help share the word about the group. So we really depend on word of mouth and social media and partners sharing the word, and co-op members letting their friends and neighbors and colleagues know. And what's really exciting about the Plano group is that it's actually taken off, way faster than we had anticipated. So that's very exciting, because we're going to be moving into this stage where Solar United Neighbors issues a RFP, a request for proposals, on behalf of the group. So once the group reaches about 30 members, that's not to say that number is flexible. So we're a little bit over 30 right now, and we're working to get that RFP together as fast as possible. So once the group has a critical mass, Solar United Neighbors will issue that request for proposals. That's not to say that we stop growing the group at 30 by any means. We're actually hoping to have about 100, 150 people join the group. And that doesn't mean that everybody will end up going solar, but at least that many people have learned about the co-op and taken the step of investigating if it's right for them to go solar. So we'll issue the RFP on behalf of the group, and then I'll also ask for volunteers to participate in a selection committee. So when you sign up to join the co-op, you have the option to say, yes, I'm interested in joining the selection committee. I'll also email everyone and say, hey, I'm taking selection committee volunteers. And then we'll coordinate to find a time that works for everyone to sit down and go over the bids. So Solar United Neighbors will compile the bids that come in from solar installers, and we'll make sure that they are complete and check for appropriate paperwork and that sort of thing. And we'll put them in a format that's as easy to read as possible so that selection committee members can compare apples to apples when they're looking at bids. And then we'll sit down and we'll go through all the bids. We'll do this over Zoom these days, and it's ultimately up to the selection committee to pick the installer to serve the group. So the selection committee selects a single installer to serve the group. At that point, the installer will start reaching out to individual members, and again, many installers have they'll reach out to you and set up a time to talk to you in whatever manner you prefer. A lot of them are doing video conferencing, and will come out to your home in a COVID safe manner as appropriate. So they'll schedule a time to talk to you, and they'll present you with an individual proposal that takes into account your utility history, so how much electricity you have been using, as well as your solar goals. So they'll develop an individual proposal for you, and it's at that point that you can say, you know what, this isn't right for me, I've learned more about it, not interested, and no harm done. Or you can say, great, this is exactly what I wanted, and sign the proposal and then move forward with your installation. So just a point to hone in on, the contracts are always between co-op members and the installer, it's not a group that's signing a contract, and it's not between the group and Solar United Neighbors. The installations happen, and then we like to celebrate at the very end. So we're getting really close to the point at which y'all choose the installer, which is exciting. And then you can start getting your installations. And I just covered this, but it's up to the co-op members to pick the installer. We all are installer neutral. All right, any questions about co-op process?
There was one question I couldn't answer that maybe Yarkis could, but it was what percentage of homes have solar already in Plano? Yeah, what penetration of, and I don't know if Yarkis knows that. We can do that at the end. Good questions are coming fast and furious, but most of them you're going to get to, so keep on keeping on.
All right, I'll keep on keeping on. Great. So moving right into perhaps the most exciting part, we're going to be breaking down the cost of solar. So the cost of solar technology has dropped very drastically in the past even 10 years. But if you look at those costs, most of the savings are in the purple part. Those are the system components. Those are the technology savings. So the technology has gotten great, and that is where you see the most savings. What hasn't come down, what hasn't really come down are the soft costs. And those are the costs associated with marketing and education and customer acquisition. And so that's where our solar co-ops can help both installers and individual community members save money on going solar, is by doing that customer education and customer support, and having the bulk, the group of people who are all interested in solar, so that solar installers can sort of streamline their purchasing and their acquisition. I do also want to talk about the federal tax credit. So the federal tax credit for solar is decreasing. We got a really great surprise at the very end of last year, where the tax credit was extended at the federal level, which we had been advocating for a while. It was extended to stay at the 26% for 2021 and 2022. It's set to step down to 22% in 2023 and then expire unless, of course, renewed at the federal level in 2024. And then a note on solar as an investment. So solar is priced by the watt or the kilowatt. It's not priced by the panel. And it's a long-term, and it is a long-term investment. And as utility prices fluctuate, it's something some people get a large peace of mind by knowing more or less what they're going to be paying for electricity in the long run. The other thing I just want to note is that there is a property tax exemption for renewable energy systems. So it's a Form 5123, and it allows you to, even though you have added value to your property, it's an exemption from being taxed on that added value. And then I'm moving into this chart, which I honestly don't love just because it's so hard to accurately and fully represent the range of options in terms of buyback plans in Texas. So how soon your system will pay for itself really depends on what you're paying for electricity right now, and how and when you're using electricity. And so our aim is to make this as easy and uncomplicated as possible, and also to allow you to get the most value out of your system through, for example, those individual reports that will tell you which retail electricity plan could help you maximize your savings. Anecdotally speaking, people will report about a 10 to 15 year simple payback. Again, anecdotally speaking. So the average cost of solar within our Texas Solar Co-ops is about $2.50 per watt. So if you're looking at for a kilowatt system, that's $2.50 times 4,000, and then that's where you get that $10,000 number, and you can take off the 26% federal tax credit. So these are the net costs, and then we really hope to be providing you with the information that will enable you to save the upper end of savings. And I do encourage folks to check out our webinar on buyback plans, which I will actually email out to people so they can do a deeper dive on that. And any questions about sort of selecting a retail electricity provider or some things to keep in mind, we would love to help you answer those questions. There's a couple of great financing options that I'll get into right after this slide that are just offered for City of Plano residents. If you know you're going to be looking for financing, we do recommend you sort of look into that process sooner rather than later. And we do have a brand new page on financing options. So it's solarunitedneighbors.org/financing. So some things that we've seen that you may want to check out are home equity line of credit loans, and then just like standard loans through a bank. You can also look at solar loans or solar bridge loans to help bridge the gap between when you pay for the system and when you get that tax credit. I do want to highlight that the Clean Energy Credit Union and Community First Credit Union, we're now field of membership partners with both of those credit unions. So anyone who's in a co-op can become a member of either of those credit unions for free, and they specialize in finance for clean energy installations. And then, of course, if you don't want to be buying your system outright, an option that's usually an option that can generally just replace your utility bill, ideally at a lower cost, are solar leases or power purchase agreements, where you aren't owning the system, but you are paying for the electricity that the system is producing. And again, you can check out all of those resources at solarunitedneighbors.org/financing. The city of Plano has a specific loan program for renewable energy and energy efficiency upgrades. And this program was established through the Department of Energy to support Plano homeowners seeking energy efficient home improvements, and it's in partnership with BTH Bank. So if you are interested in investigating this, there is we have information both on the Texas financing page and the City of Plano, well, direct to the City of Plano's website. And we encourage folks to reach out to the loan program at the City of Plano if they're interested in exploring this option. And then the other great thing for Plano residents is the Great Update Rebate. So this is available for homes that are older, so they have to be 35 years or older, and there are rebates available for energy efficiency improvements. So if you are looking to replace your roof or repair your roof, there's a 25% rebate and there's a 10% rebate for solar. And all the information about the Great Update Rebate is on the City of Plano's website. So next steps for the co-op. If you're interested in joining, please go to solarunitedneighbors.org/Plano or solarunitedneighbors.org/Dallas DeSoto. If you don't know, if you're on the border in between and you don't know which one to join, pick one and we'll move you into another one if it looks like, based on your home's location, you would be more suited for the other co-op. So pick a co-op and don't worry too much, and we're happy to move you over on the back end if it looks like you're a little bit closer to one or the other. And we also have a website, a Facebook group, a listserv, and if you have questions that occur to you after this information session, please reach out to Texas team at solarunitedneighbors.org. And I am happy to keep taking questions verbally or, yeah, any questions. Dory, any questions that I should?
I think I've got them all answered. We could go back and make sure. I don't know if Yarkis does he happen to know the penetration of solar in Plano?
Yarkis or Larry, is that a random fact you happen to have?
So this is Yarkis. Yeah, I don't know a percentage. I know that Plano does have one of the highest penetration rates of solar of cities in Texas. So we have a lot of solar installations here.
Excellent.
Is it about 800, or have we hit 1,000 yet, Yarkis?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. So